Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cerebral Movie Chat. I know I've been doing a lot of videos, but I did have a break yesterday as it was Mother's Day, and I really was looking for stuff to do. So, and I'm very fascinated with psychology, psychological ideas, and even like sort of why people do what they do and the way they do it. So I come across a fascinating 10-part, kind of half an hour, maybe a little bit longer series that is being distributed anyway by Disney Plus. I know I'm still watching them sometimes. I don't really watch their new stuff, but it was on Disney Plus. I think you can get it on Apple TV too. But either way, fascinating show. So excited to talk about it because I think I have maybe a unique theory. So again, this is like a movie review. It's actually a TV show limited series review. And not necessarily my own, although I have my own ideas, more like Steve Carell, because Steve Carell is this unbelievably legendary actor who, gosh, I remember 20 years ago, his first movie. I had never seen him before. And it was just really so very good. And then he's done so many other movies, over the years, and just very talented actor, just extraordinarily good. So he's done this TV show called The Patient. So very intense psychological thriller kind of stuff. Not super gruesome. There's a couple of things that are a little bit gruesome, but really not too many. So that most of the violence is off screen or not graphic, like graphic but not bloody, if that makes sense. Although there are some occasional stuff. But I can't say I loved it, but I loved the idea of what Steve Carell I think was trying to do, right? Because it may not be super evident to people. It's not like Severance, but it has that whole trapped vibe. How they can't get anywhere, they can't leave. And I'm not sure why everybody's doing trapped videos all the time, but this is definitely that. And I also love the idea and how it explained my life to me. Because if you've had a lot of trauma, you can't always remember what happened, or you don't always get the feeling because either they made you push it down, or you pushed it down, or they made you, not think about it, or you didn't want to think about it, or whatever. So this gave me my life back in a weird sort of way. So I'm going to add that because, of course, as you know, I do talk about my trauma and PTSD on this channel as well. But really, we're doing Cerebral Movie Chat, where I talk about the limited series, The Patient. It's 10 episodes. And it's fascinating, though. It does get a little bit old, I will say. It's kind of slower paced, and I think it's too long. I don't think they needed 10 episodes. Because around the 7th episode, they really do lose their way and all of a sudden start talking about other stuff that really doesn't have very much to do with the central premise. So, and a lot of people have said that this isn't that well made in the reviews that I have seen. I mean, I think it's pretty well made in the sense of what chilling kind of, it's supposed to be almost a horror movie, although it's not like it's real. It's like real horror, not like, monsters and whatever. I mean, the human kind of monsters, if that makes sense. It's also, like I said, a trapped captivity kind of show. So, and in my opinion anyway, there's a lot of hidden meanings. So that's what, to me, makes it like Severance. There's a lot of sort of hidden, almost imagery or ideas that I think Steve Carell is trying to make. The one interesting piece that I wondered, I don't know if the guy, Dom Hall, Gleason, I think, is hard up, maybe, because he went out of his way to distance himself from any of his previous work. So as we know, he was in the show About Time, which, God, was probably 10 years ago now, more than 10 years ago. Such a great show about how he is actually English or British, right? Maybe Irish. Anyway, so he has an accent usually, and like an English accent, and just a fascinating show about how his family are time travelers, but they play this super straight. So it's God and how he meets this love of his life. It's just so beautiful. Anyway, and then of course I believe he played Hux, Commander Hux, in the rather upsetting and distressing final trilogy of Star Wars movies. He was in all three of them. Don't mind Force Awakens, love Force Awakens. The other two, oh my God, right? So, yeah, because he's very fair. He's a very fair man. In this show, he's very dark. He's got pitch black hair, dark eyebrows, brown eyes, and I think his eyes are blue. I'd have to look that again. So, very, like, you don't even recognize him. I didn't recognize him. So him and, of course, Steve Carell, these are the main people in the show. There are other people, there are families, and most of these people we've never seen before. Like, the only people that you might actually know are those two people. And like I said, the one guy doesn't even look like it. And then, of course, Steve Carell is much, much older now. And he's boasting the beard and everything. So the idea is he is a psychologist, a fairly good one. He's written books. He's reasonably famous, but he sees people in his house. Never see people in your house. That's mine. Because you don't know who these people are that are coming, and they know where you live, especially if you're a psychologist. They know where you live. And if they're unbalanced or unhinged, they know where you live. So that's what happens. He is Jewish, and he talks to his son, and him are having a lot of problems because his son is Orthodox and he isn't, and it's a whole big fight. Spoiler ahead. Spoiler ahead. So I'm going to talk about everything. So if you haven't seen it, please watch it first, because I'm going to talk about it. And he has a daughter. His daughter is much more like him. She's a therapist. She takes after him. His son rebelled and is now a very extreme sort of sect Jew, like Jewish person, Orthodox, I think. So they're always fighting. He, like I said, he is a Jewish psychologist, which of course is almost a cliche at this point. There's so many Jewish people that are psychologists, right? So I think that's the point he's making. He's making that it's almost like a meme. There are so many of them. So this is my opinion of what I think his opinion is, not really my opinion, if that makes sense. What I think he's doing. So basically early on, he has this really sketchy looking guy come and make an appointment. He's wearing sunglasses, he's wearing a hat, you can't really see him very well. The guy tries to get him to take off his hat, he doesn't want to, take off his sunglasses, he doesn't want to. I think he has 2 appointments with him, and he can't really get him to talk about very many things, right? Which is important because we're going to find out who he is later. So, and apparently his beloved wife had just died. Very sad. It's a very sad thing. So that's kind of what happens. Setting the scene, the first episode. I believe it's the second episode. He gets kidnapped. And if we don't understand what's going on, we don't know what's happening, but just to sort of set the scene, the younger guy, he's a serial killer. Seriously. He strangles people, and apparently he's very strong. Even really big men can't fight him. that might be a bit of a story, because I'm sure some people can actually fight him, but everyone basically can't in the story, right? So it's kind of a narrative. And so he's killed multiple people at this point. Right, he's like killed 13, 14 people. He just strangles them because he gets mad at them. And his theory, his story is his dad did beat him up. And that's sad. It is sad. His dad was abusive. Um, and so he's now a serial killer because his dad's abusive. And anytime somebody says something he doesn't like, he kills them. So I don't know how realistic that is exactly, but maybe it is. There is something that they do talk about in the story about how, why wouldn't you be one? Well, a lot of us aren't. I'm not. A lot of other people who had a brutal abuse upbringing aren't. So this is his choice. He doesn't have to do this. But again, he does have a lot of issues, right? So he captures this guy, chains him up down in his basement. Now, it's not an ugly basement. It's a finished basement. There is a bed. It's not like that. He's not super vicious to him. The idea is, and they feed him well, stuff like that. His mother is just as much of a psychopath as he is. Although I don't think she kills people, but she knows he does, and she allows him to do that. He thinks that if he captures the man, then he can give him therapy. Right? So the man is now just taken from his house, all his other patients, and is basically just a captive in this guy's basement. As I said, it's a kind of comfortable basement. It's a big basement. He has room to walk around, even though he's got a chain on his leg. Yeah, it's big. It's a big house. It's out in the country, so nobody's gonna hear them because there's like nobody around, that kind of thing. So that's the scene. And then as the scene sort of unfolds, you see the fellow. What is his name again? Steve Carell's character. Because I don't remember Steve Carell's character right now. Anyway, it's his character, and I never worried about it too much. Alan Strauss. Yeah, it's Alan Strauss. And then his mother's, the evil kid's mother's name is Candace. And then Sam is the guy who murders people. So that's kind of the setup, right? So anyway, he's trying to figure out what to do. And so this is sort of the story. He's trying to figure out what to do, how to manage. So the kid who is insane, like clearly insane. He has this weird sort of thing where he cannot see anybody else's feelings. He has no empathy. He's not the guys from Funny Games, if you remember that. He's not sadistic that way. He's not mean to Alan or anything like that. He feeds him. He's pretty reasonable, but he has no ability to understand that Alan doesn't want to be there and that he's taken him hostage, right? He thinks, what's your problem? I'm feeding you. I just want therapy. Why is this a problem for you? His mother is the same damn way. So it's very chilling, and they're very disturbed, right? And they don't understand why he's upset and why he doesn't want to do this. So in my opinion, and I think this is what Steve Carell was saying, he makes a fatal error in the beginning. Instead of running and fighting and, saying, no, I'm not going to do this, he basically lays down and says, sure, whatever you want. Never a good idea. Right? Because they are not usually going to let you go if you give them what they want, because you're reinforcing that, especially with very severely disturbed people. And he should know this already because he's a psychologist who's fairly famous, but he doesn't seem to know it. So he tries to make the best of it and have meetings with him and all kinds of stuff, basically just at his beck and call. He doesn't have very much to do because he's chained up. He has some books he can read. They do feed him, but he does have a bed, but it's pretty grim. But he just kind of lets the guy do it. He's trying to help him not murder people because that's the idea, right? But it just all goes so badly, right? He brings one of the murder victims, back, and then they're talking about it, and then that he's trying to save his life, and he's really bad at this, and I think that's the point. I think what Carol is saying is that therapy isn't really helpful. His life is depending on whether or not he helps this guy, and he doesn't help him. And they talk a lot about, well, you wrote your book and you have a book, because a lot of counselors, a lot of psychologists write books. Do they ever help anybody? And that's, I think, what they're saying is that this guy is supposed to be a counselor and he's not really helping him. And this guy could really use the help, right? Because he's got a lot of mental health challenges and he murders people. So, no, doesn't really help him. Murders the guy in front of him, this poor kid from this restaurant, and it's very surreal. And then basically blames killing him on the, because he can't take responsibility for himself, on Alan. So it's this whole big story now about now Alan's terrified, doesn't know what to do, still basically just tries to talk to him. So, like in Baby Reindeer, you basically keep giving them what they want. So he doesn't think there's anything wrong about it. And then, of course, way leads on to way. He kills other people and stuff goes on, not really helping him. And then we start getting these other weird flashback things about him and his counselor, Alan and his counselor, who isn't that really helpful either. And why won't he fight? Why won't he do something? Why won't he, why is he so passive? And so they talk a little bit about that, like, why are you so passive? And then the feeling I get is that he doesn't really know the difference, because he's so sad and so passive in his life anyway. It's like, what's the difference if he's there or back at his house? He doesn't do anything anyway. So that's my feeling about it. And then he manages to get this whole big thing together about the boy. He's kind of young, had a girlfriend, and then all this thing. And then the girlfriend comes over and he can say something. He can tell them he's being held prisoner, he's being held against his will, doesn't say anything, which is exactly what does happen in some of the other movies, right? And so then it's just too late at that point. And then the guy, of course, isn't happy because he's still killing people, and he's not happy with the treatment that he's getting from the guy. So then he's like, I don't want to see you anymore. I mean, I like you. I think you're good. But if I have to kill you, I will. Very matter-of-factly. It's, again, seriously chilling. And so now the fire is lit under his ass. And he's like, oh, my God, I don't want to die. Right? And so it's this weird sort of conversations they keep having about stuff. And kind of at the end of the movie, you find, on a TV show, you find out that he's actually a pretty awful guy. He hasn't been that great to his son. He hasn't helped this guy that he needs to help to save his own life. So in the end, he kind of gives up and realizes, because the guy, Sam, basically thinks he's a pet now, not making it up, goes to him, and because he's trying to leave, he's trying to reason with this guy. Think Lord of the Flies. You're not going to reason with these kids. And so he's like, you need to let me go home. The therapy's over. I tried my best to help you. You need to let me go back to my family. He has no intention of letting him go back to his family. So he said, but I'll be nicer to you. I'll let you have a TV. I'll let you have a fridge. You can have anything you want. I'll buy it for you, because he's actually a health inspector. So he inspects restaurants for a living. Whole other story. And then now Alan's finally like, hey, I don't want to be your pet right down here. And he already is. So it just goes right over the boy's head. He doesn't understand. And then he does do this weird sort of last stand thing. He writes a letter to his 2 children saying that he's probably going to die. And he does some weird thing where the mother comes down and tries to grab the mother, but it's pretty weak. And so they don't really end it very well. So I can see why people are mad, because a lot of people are mad online. They don't really tell you kind of what happened in a way. I mean, they kind of do, but they don't really. And then there's this like false memory thing where you think he does get away. And then, he's back with all his family and they're praying. They're doing their Jewish kind of, prayer thing. And then he sees his old therapist who's also died, and then realizes that he must have died. Lame. And then you find out that the guy actually strangled him because he attacked his mother. And so he couldn't even save his own life. Like that's pathetic. Right? And then that's basically the show. So to wrap up, for me, what I found super, super powerful was that I think that Steve Carell is making a damning statement about the state of mental health care and how counselors try and be helpful and write books, but they're not helpful. And, they don't actually, and people spend a fortune, and has anybody actually been helped? Really? Right? And so I never have. I've probably seen 30 shrinks over my lifetime. No. I mean, I could write a whole other video of just how badly these people are. They don't help you. Most of them have more problems than you do, and then take your money. So I think that's maybe what he's saying right now. The interesting part for me, though, and maybe other people, was seeing myself in his dilemma, right? I was born in that basement, right? I was captive from a very young age, so I didn't know anything else. My family acted just that way, the same way, as though there shouldn't be anything wrong with me wanting to have a life or me wanting to do something. Like, what was my problem, right? And that was kind of what happened with him. So I got this sense of freedom, because I'm like, he didn't get out of the basement, but I got out of mine. So it's this sort of sense of freedom that I got. So that's what I liked about it, that this sense of feeling free, that I wasn't my fault. I was captured by these people, right? And born into it, which that happens to some people. But he really was an older man, very prestigious, very, sophisticated, and just crumbled, really. Just was really weak in that situation, which wasn't helping him. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Tell me what you think about the patient. Hopefully, you got something out of it too, even if it was just weird. So I'll see you later, everybody. Bye-bye.